reviews of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and the latest remake of Peter Pan, along with all the scoop of upcoming movies during the rest of the month of May on this episode of the Movies Past and Present podcast. Hello and welcome to the Movies Past and Present podcast. It's May 15th, 2023, and this is episode 104. I'm your host, Stanford Clark, and I'm podcasting from the crossroads of the West in beautiful Salt Lake City, Utah. Just like my blog, moviespastandpresent.com, I'll be providing recommendations, commentary, and reviews about current and classic cinema. Thanks for tuning in, and let's do this thing. So new in theaters this weekend, as in May 19th, we've got Fast X, which is the 10th film in the Fast and Furious saga that the folks at Universal Pictures like to call it. This launches the final chapters. Now, what I understood, it was supposed to be 2 parts, but Vin Diesel said that it's actually going to be a trilogy. So we've got this film and then 2 more with this current cast or storyline or whatever you want to call it. But you know, this has been this franchise has been going on for a long time. It's super popular. It's now in its 3rd decade, with the same core cast and characters as when it began, which is, you know, pretty impressive. I think that the film quality is really diminished, but we'll see what happens with Fast X. So the press materials say over many missions and against impossible odds, Dom Toretto, who's played by Vin Diesel, of course, and his family have been, have outsmarted, not been outsmarted. They've outsmarted, outnerved, and outdriven every foe in their path. Now they confront the most lethal opponent they've ever faced, a terrifying threat emerging from the shadows of the past, who's fueled by blood revenge, and who is determined to shatter this family and destroy everything and everyone that Dom loves forever. So this villain is rooted in the film Fast 5, which was the 5th Fast and Furious film, was released in 2011, where Dom and his crew took out a Brazilian drug pin named Hernan Reyes and totally messed up his empire, based in out of Rio de Janeiro. What they didn't know was that Reyes' son, Dante, who in this new film Fast 10 or Fast X is being played by Jason Momoa, he witnessed it all and has spent the last 12 years masterminding a plan to make Dom pay the ultimate price. Dante's plot will scatter Dom's family from Los Angeles to Rome, from Brazil to London, and from Portugal to Antarctica. They're going all over the world, people. New allies will be forged and old enemies will resurface. But everything changes when Dom discovers that his own 8-year-old son is the ultimate target of Dante's vengeance. So this film is directed by Louis Leterrier. I hope I'm saying his name right. Who's got some cred. You know, he directed the Edward Norton version of The Incredible Hulk a while back. And anyway, I think he's could be legit. This is his first first film in this particular series. And of course, all of the regulars are back. There's Michelle Rodriguez, Tyrese Gibson, Ludacris, Jordana Brewster, Sung Kang, Jason Statham, John Cena, who came in the 9th film as Dom Toretto's long-lost brother. Scott East was back, Helen Mirren, Charlize Theron. I mean, holy cow. This movie's probably going to be super long, too, with all these characters and all these plot lines. But they've also got some new some new cast members joining for this film. Brie Larson is in the film. She is a rogue representative from the agency. That's what Kurt Russell was who he was from. And and the films he was in recently with the series. Daniela Melchior is a Brazilian street racer with a powerful tie to Dom's past. And, this was a big surprise to me, but Rita Moreno is joining the team. She plays Dom and Mia's grandmother, Abuelita Toretto. So, anyway, this film is going to be big and overblown. I just hope it's fun. I just feel like these last Fast and Furious movies, clearly, they jumped the shark in around, number 6 or 7. They're just so crazy, and the plots are almost like it's a James Bond movie rather than just a street racer crime film, which, the first ones were, and I thought were so much more fun. But anyway, we'll see. And of course I'm going because there's cars in it too, and I love the cars. But Fast X, or Fast 10, whatever you want to call it, is rated PG-13 by the Motion Picture Association for intense sequences of violence and action, language, and some suggestive material. I will be seeing this film before I record my next podcast, so I will definitely post a review, and I'll be anxious to hear what you think too. Let me know. You can give me some feedback on my Instagram, which is at moviespap, as in past and present. So we got a lot of films that are actually going to be opening up next weekend too. Oh, one last thing about Fast and Furious, or Fast X, Fast 10. I'm also planning to see it in IMAX. So one interesting thing about this summer is that there are so many movies coming out that typically the window to see a movie in IMAX is short. It's either going to be a week or possibly 2 weeks, just depending on the movie. So check your local listings. But if you want to see an IMAX, you'll need to act on it early when the film comes out. So starting next week, we've got a few films opening up. The first one is Disney's The Little Mermaid. This is, of course, a remake of the wonderful 1989 animated film. It's a musical, no duh. And they've done it with live actors and a ton of CGI. It's the story of Ariel, a beautiful and spirited young mermaid with a thirst for adventure. She is the youngest of King Triton's daughters and the most defiant. And she has a big curiosity about the world above the sea, the human world. She, through, events in the film, meets a prince, Prince Eric, and falls in love with him. And she makes a deal with the evil sea witch Ursula, who gives her a chance to experience life on land, but ultimately places her life and her father's crown in jeopardy. So one of the things that I typically, I'm totally against these Disney live action remakes, because if I want to watch The Little Mermaid, I'll watch The Little Mermaid. But they always spend a ton of money on them, and I think because they make a ton of money. Well, my guess is this thing's going to make $1 billion in like the first month of its run. And the one thing at least I'm happy about for this particular film is that they hired a young woman to play Ariel who actually can sing. That's, when they did meaning Disney, when they did their live action version of Beauty and the Beast a few years ago, that thing was so atrocious because they hired people who couldn't sing. And, of course, wonderful production values, and they just threw a ton of money at it. But, it just drove me crazy to hear just these fantastic songs all done with, on auto-tune because the actors couldn't sing. Anyway, that was frustrating. But if you've heard, her name's Halle Bailey, is the actress who plays Ariel. If you've heard her sing Part of Your World, I just loved it. I'll fully admit it. I just thought it was beautiful. And so I will put that video on in the podcast notes on my blog so you can check it out. And I highly recommend it. At least just listen to that, even if you don't go to the movie. But they've got a big cast going on. So Jonah Hauer-King plays Prince Eric, and I don't know him. Tony Award winner David Diggs, he's the voice of Sebastian. Comedian and actress Awkwafina is the voice of Scuttle. Jacob Tremblay is the voice of Flounder. And Javier Bardem plays King Triton. And Melissa McCarthy is playing Ursula the Sea Witch. So, a great cast. It's directed by Rob Marshall. Now, Rob Marshall's got some chops, too. You know, he directed that fantastic filmed version of the musical Chicago. He also directed Mary Poppins Returns, which I thought was legit, too. It was a nice film. It's got a screenplay by two-time Oscar nominee David McGee, who wrote The Life of Pi and Finding Neverland, which are, again, I think two fantastic films. So, again, we'll see what he does with the script. I'm sure that they've changed some stuff, and it's probably going to make purists mad, myself included. But we'll just see, you know, how it goes. And, you know, songs by Alan Menken, and Alan Menken's back. He's been involved with the process. And then, of course, the wonderful lyrics that Alan Menken worked on, or, you know, wrote or teamed up with Howard Ashman. But then also they've added some new songs, and Lin-Manuel Miranda is the one who wrote the lyrics. So my guess is going to be like rapping Sebastian and some other things. But it's fun that Lin-Manuel Miranda is involved. You know, this was his favorite film as a kid, and he named his firstborn Sebastian, as you probably already know. But anyway, that'll be fun to have him involved, and we'll just see again if it's any good. So, you know, I'm ever hopeful that The Little Mermaid is going to be decent. But again, I don't know why we just have to have all these remakes. It's just frustrating with a company that's got so much creative talent that Disney doesn't, and all they're doing is remaking previous films that don't need to be remade. I wish they'd remake stuff that like sucked, you know, like The Black Hole or some other movies that, you know, could use a remake. But anyway, I'm not the one calling the shots. So this remake of The Little Mermaid is rated PG by the Motion Picture Association for action peril and some scary images. And again, I'm going to put a link to the Part of Your World video in the podcast notes on my blog. Also opening up on May 26th in theaters is a comedy called About My Father. It stars Sebastian Maniscalco, and I hope I'm saying Sebastian's name right. Or it's Maniscalco. Sorry. And I speak Italian. You should admit that as I'm butchering his name. Robert De Niro, Leslie Bibb, Anders Holm, and Kim Cattrall, among others. So Sebastian Maniscalco is he's a comedian. He's an Italian American. He's released a bunch of comedy specials. He's also had some supporting film roles. He was in the film Green Book from 2018. You know, the film that won Best Picture. He was in The Irishman. But anyway, this comedy film, he plays the son of Robert De Niro, and the film centers around how Sebastian brings his dad along with a weekend get-together with his fiance's super rich and exceedingly eccentric family. The weekend develops into what can only be described as a culture clash, leaving Sebastian and his dad to discover that the great thing about family is everything about family. I'll have a link to this trailer also in the podcast notes on my blog. And honestly, I'm not familiar with Sebastian's work. I've never seen his stand-up, and I've just seen this trailer a couple of times. So it could be funny. It kind of reminded me of like a Meet the Parents type film. And again, it could be funny. It could be just kind of derivative and not funny, or it could also go in kind of a gross out, thing. So it's rated PG-13 by the Motion Picture Association for suggestive material, language, and partial nudity. So there you have that. Also opening on May 26th is a comedy called You Hurt My Feelings. This is from writer-director Nicole Holofcener, and I just said it the same way. I'm so sorry. I don't know how to pronounce her name, and so sorry, Nicole. But it's starring Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Tobias Menzies, David Cross, Amber Tamblyn, and others. And it is an adult comedy, I think, about a couple working through some issues. I'll put a link to the trailer, or it's actually just going to be an embedded video in the podcast notes on my blog, so you can watch this trailer if you're interested. I believe this movie played at Sundance this year, and A24 picked it up, if I'm not mistaken. So it looks promising. Again, if you like that sort of thing, again, it just looks like a comedy drama for grown-ups with excellent acting and a witty, thought-provoking script. You Hurt My Feelings is rated R by the Motion Picture Association for language. So it's probably just F-bomb central. But anyway, there you have that. Also opening up is a film called Kandahar. And I saw this on the calendar. I've never heard of it. I haven't seen any trailers for it, although I found one on YouTube. And again, I'll put that in the podcast notes on my blog. It's an action movie starring Gerard Butler. He plays an undercover CIA operative who is stuck in hostile territory in Afghanistan. I also don't know if this is based on a true story or if this is fictional too. So anyway, after his mission is exposed, he, meaning Gerard Butler, the character that he plays, must fight his way out alongside his Afghan translator to an extraction point in Kandahar, all while avoiding elite enemy forces and foreign spies tasked with hunting them down. It looks like it's an action movie. It looks pretty dramatic. My guess is that everybody dies. But anyway, sorry. That's, coming from pure ignorance. But Kandahar is rated R by the Motion Picture Association for violence and language. And then finally, opening up on next Friday, May 26th, or a week from Friday, May 26th, is this film called The Machine. Now, I've seen trailers for it and posters, and it's a vehicle for comedian Bert Kreischer. And again, I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, too. I'm probably 3 for 3. But I first became familiar with him from a comedy show called Bert the Conqueror, and which was I believe it was on the Travel Channel. And he'd go on these trips or do kind of some of this crazy stuff. His nickname is The Machine. And, according to the font of all truth, Wikipedia, I'm just going to go ahead and read this little bio about him. In 1997, he was featured in an article in Rolling Stone while he was attending Florida State University. The magazine named him the top partier at the #1 party school in the country. The article also served as an inspiration for the 2002 National Lampoon film Van Wilder. Kreischer has served as a host, of course, on these shows, as I mentioned, Bert the Conqueror. He was also on a show called Trip Flip. Anyway, and then, of course, now they've made this comedy film based on his life. So he, in his stand-up, in his signature set, recounts his true experience with Russian mobsters while on a booze-soaked college trip. So now, 23 years later, that trip has come back to haunt him and so again, this is, I think that's where they're basing the film on, is this part, which is fictional, but, they're playing it up for comedy. Now, 23 years later, that trip has come back to haunt him as he and his estranged father, who's played by Mark Hamill, are kidnapped back to Russia by the mob to atone for something they say he did. Together, Bert and his father must retrace the steps of his younger self in the midst of a war within a sociopathic crime family, all while attempting to find common ground in their oft-fraught relationship. So, it basically, a summary of it, and excuse my French, I'll just quote it: Bert Kreischer kicking ass, Mark Hamill on speed. Grab your tickets now to the Machine movie. And then also, I guess on May 25th, they're doing some sort of a special thing with a live pre-show with Bert Kreischer. So you might want to check your listening to that if you're a Bert Kreischer fan. So this film is rated R by the Motion Picture Association. Shocking for strong violence, pervasive language, drug use, and some sexual references. Again, the episodes I saw of Bert the Conqueror were kind of entertaining. I didn't just love them. I'm not familiar with the signature set or anything else about it. In fact, seeing the posters and stuff, I was a little confused because I just was wondering, is this a stand-up special? They're putting out in theaters or what? But it looks like it's kind of a combination of both his reality and then maybe a high concept thing about the modern day stuff with Mark Hamill. So anyway, there you have it. So Fast X or Fast 10 this Friday, May 19th, and then on May 26th, again, that's Labor Day weekend and the real start of summer. We've got The Little Mermaid, About My Father, You Hurt My Feelings, Kandahar, and The Machine. All right, well, in reviews, as I mentioned at the top of the show, we've got two movies that I'll be reviewing. First up will be a new one of these, speaking of these live-action remakes, this one went straight to Disney Plus, for which we can be grateful. But it's a remake of the Peter Pan story. It's Peter Pan and Wendy. Now, this film is, I guess it had never been anything but reported to be going straight to Disney Plus. So it's not something that was like a last minute decision to put it, there rather than going in the theater. It's directed by and written or co-written by David Lowery, and David Lowery, he's an American writer and director. He directed a really thoughtful remake, speaking of Disney's Pete's Dragon. And he turned kind of this flashy musical into more of a really kind of a dramatic piece about a young boy, and the challenges of his life. I thought it was really interesting. He also directed The Green Knight, which came out in 2021. That's not a film that I had seen, but anyway, an interesting director with a very strong visual style, and seemingly a kind of a deft touch, given that I thought the very nice job he did with that Pete's Dragon film. Sadly, I have to report that this film is I thought it was pretty rotten. So of course, true to the Peter Pan legend and the classic story by J.M. Barrie, or Barry, again, however you pronounce it. I'm kind of fired with the pronunciations this episode. Thanks for putting up with me. He creates this new, he being David Lowery, creates this, new retelling of it, but it's classic in that it's got, Peter Pan, Tinkerbell, Wendy, John, and Michael, darling. They fly off to Neverland. There's, and then of course all the characters, Captain Hook and Mr. Smee, and etc. The things that I love. One of my favorite films from Walt Disney Animation Studios is their 1953 animated version of Peter Pan. Now, sure, I know there's some issues with cultural sensitivities, and I get that, and sorry about it, but I think it's still just an absolutely delightful, entertaining, wonderful film. It's a musical. The songs are great. This new one opts not to be a musical, and so I guess in a way, and they use a couple of musical themes that get inserted into the soundtrack, but it's just not a musical, and I think maybe that could be problem number one. I don't know if it would have been necessarily great that they redid the songs from the 1953 film, but they kind of need it. It's really dry and boring. I thought, and while I guess from the trailers, I thought the cinematography and the production design and art direction looked kind of muted and interesting with the color palette that they chose to use. Looking at it for the duration of the film, it was really drab. Really, Neverland is not the colorful, wonderful place I imagine it to be, both from this, all the different versions of Peter Pan, the stage plays and whatnot, and of course the Great Disney animated version. This just looks like it's somewhere in the UK that like Wuthering Heights or something, like some kind of depressing place, like that. And also it makes me sad, particularly with, so Jude Law was cast as Captain Hook, which I thought was a great choice, and comedian Jim Gaffigan as Mr. Smee. And what I was most excited about with the two of their casting, that was, I think, again, a real disappointment. Probably because of the writing and the direction, but I did not think Jude Law was a good Captain Hook. And Jim Gaffigan was definitely not a good Mr. Smee. It wasn't funny. Did not play on, I just didn't think it played on either of their strengths. And it was depressing. And I'll keep this spoiler free in case you want to suffer through it. But I was really disappointed in with these films, they always have to add like some kind of tragic backstory. So we get this more of a backstory now, at least in this this particular film's interpretation of where Captain Hook's origins, which just frankly just made me roll my eyes. And I had already been losing interest because visually it wasn't interesting, and I didn't really love the performances or the script. And then when that was revealed, it was just like, oh dear, get me through this. So I thought Peter Pan and Wendy was a dud. And if you want to watch Peter Pan, again, my favorite is the 1953 version from Walt Disney Animation Studios. But I think some of the musical versions have been fun, particularly like the Mary Martin version that was done on Broadway with great songs by Julie Stein. Again, that's not Disney, but still, it's fantastic. Anyway, so Peter Pan and Wendy on Disney Plus. Watch it at your own risk. And then finally, in reviews, is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. So this film is, the third Guardians of the Galaxy film, written and directed again by James Gunn. He directed the other two and wrote the other two. And, these characters have been through a lot. We've seen these characters in other Marvel films. Of course, they showed up in those Avengers movies. They showed up briefly in the last Thor film, Thor: Love and Thunder. I thought they had a pretty funny cameo. But this is I thought it was a very good film. So this will be spoiler free, but if you didn't get it from, and I guess they weren't just necessarily pushing it with the trailers, but this film, and really the whole trilogy, honestly, has been about Rocket the talking raccoon. So this film really dives into the backstory of how Rocket became Rocket, and basically it's the doing of a nefarious person doing genetic experiments with a very nefarious purpose, and he so that all gets explored in this film. So the real star really is Bradley Cooper, who voices Rocket, but also I think that the animators who did the CGI work on bringing Rocket to life are terrific. I think they've done such a nice job with him. Now, as you can imagine, and it kind of got alluded to, in the previous Guardians movies, it wasn't just in your face, but there was I remember for sure in the first film, you see Rocket and he's not wearing any clothes at one point, and he's got stuff on his body that looks like he's been something's been going on, and of course that only makes sense because he's this talking, walking raccoon. Anyway, who's quite capable. But this film. So Rocket in this film, how he comes to be, is definitely through animal cruelty, right? By these people that are doing these experiments on him and on other animals. So I think there's been some real sensitivity from people who have seen this film and either just hadn't really paid attention or just thinking it was going to be kind of more goofy fun, like some of the other themes or things with the other two films. And there is that component. There's a lot of fun. There's a lot of humor and a lot of great interaction with these actors. But this is about Rocket, and there are scenes of CGI animal abuse. So just buyer beware about that. If you've got some sensitivity, or again, if that's something that could be that you could find upsetting, because it's not necessarily. I mean, it's not easy to watch. I mean, they're not real animals, but still, suffering and that kind of cruelty in any regard isn't cool. But I again, ultimately for me, it's really about I guess the quality of the film and the storytelling. And I thought the storytelling was just excellent in this. Gamora is back, the green skinned woman played by Zoe Saldana, and I'll keep it again spoiler free. But that's an interesting plot. But really, each of these characters are going through interesting stuff. Probably the one who's going through the least stuff is Groot, the walking tree, voiced by Vin Diesel, who really has only the one line. He says, in multiple variations that I am Groot. But Mantis is in this, and she's got an interesting story, and Drax, Nebula, and again, these actors are great. I think that Dave Bautista is particularly funny, but also so is Karen Gillan as Nebula, and Palm Clementif as Mantis is really, really great too. And then really the star of the show, Chris Pratt, right, as Peter Quill / Star-Lord. He's terrific. So great special effects. I had read that there were lots and lots of different masks used. So I think some of the stuff is CGI, but there's also a lot of practical makeup used in this film. So the production values are good. And ultimately, I thought it was a really fitting end to an interesting trilogy. I think the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy has been weird and fun and interesting. This film definitely earns its PG-13 rating. So, pay attention to that if because it's it's PG-13. So it's not PG. But I would highly recommend Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I thought it was, great sci-fi, fun, superhero film, poignant, touching, and a great way to end up a very unique movie trilogy. Well, that does it for this episode of the Movies Past and Present podcast. Again, links and more information about the movies discussed in today's podcast can be found in the podcast notes on my blog at moviespastandpresent.com. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Stitcher. Links are also on the blog. And follow me on Instagram. My handle is at moviespap, as in past and present. As always, I hope you'll enjoy some good movies this week, whether they be from the past or the present. Thanks for listening, and until next time, be safe out there and dedicate yourself to the truth.